and we continue in that feeling of disconnection, we get into a parallel existence. We maybe not be arguing, we're not going to court or separating, but we don't have that intimacy and closeness. We may be making popcorn and sitting on the sofa and watching our favorite movie, all because we want a semblance of feeling close, but we're really managing the distance, you see. So when that happens, and that was what was happening, and so there was this issue with, he just discovered a lot about himself, quote, knowing himself, that he didn't need a lot of intimacy where she had a lot of need for it. That's the biggest bunch of baloney I've ever heard in my life. Because, all of a sudden, you're comparing the relationships with your friends and your kids with the relationship with your wife, and so what happened was when he understood how he was taken, and eventually, we're going to get to his example and share a little bit more about him when we talk about core scene. So I'll leave it with that, but you're going to find out how he discovered that. So most couples want that safety, connection, and passion and full aliveness. And when we're passionately and fully alive and connected with each other, we glorify God. When we feel disconnected, we're just managing distance. We're living in a parallel existence. Some of us get into a place where it's a silent divorce. We're together because of our commitment, maybe the kids, our Christian commitment, but we're really not. Well, that's not a relationship that glorifies the Lord. So what we want is to work toward safety, connection, and passion and full aliveness. So make connection your goal. The second issue is to identify the core scene that repeatedly ruptures your connection. So your core scene occurs when the same childhood wounds and defenses are repeatedly activated. And so let me ask the question, in your relationship, what childhood wounds are being activated? And wounds result from parents that are either too invasive and intrusive, where they're smothering or controlling, or parents that you had which were more loosely, disconnected and abandoning perhaps, and not interested or not present with you. So we grew up with parents, and it's very simple. We either had parents that were one way or the other, usually, and that's where the wounding occurs. So, and then when the wounding of abandonment or rejection occurs, and the wounding of smothering or controlling occurs, we develop a defense, a way to survive that. And by the way, when I say abandonment, I don't mean that, your parents left you. There is that kind of abandonment extreme. But I'm talking about a woman who grew up in a home where her brother was born, then she was born the year later, and then the year later she had her mom had twins with colic. And so she grew up in these first years feeling unseen, not available. The parents were wonderful Christians, and they were great parents, right? So we can have wounding even when it's not severe. So don't count yourself out, even if you had good enough parenting in a sense, all right? So the childhood defenses, we either learn to minimize by pulling back, minimize, disconnecting. Oh, wow, mom's a hailstorm, and she's, so I'm learning to go to my room or to pull back or to go, or when I get hurt, I go pout, and I internalize everything. I minimize it. And we call that, to understand it, the turtle. It's the reaction of the turtle to pull into the shell. Or we become the hailstorm, the maximizer, where we explode outwardly with our energy. And so when we do that, either way we do that, we put safety in jeopardy. And so here's Peter and Don. Peter had a single mom who was overwhelmed with all her responsibility, but she was over-involved in leaving him feeling controlled and smothered. He said, when mom felt anxious, she went into action mode, which left me feeling controlled. And so Peter's drawn to whom? He's drawn to someone. Listen to this. He's going to be drawn to someone. His lower brain's going to tune into someone who has that ability of his mom to activate that wound. So who's he drawn to? He's drawn to Dawn. She's his imago, because among other things, she has that negative characteristic of his mom. So why does she have that? She grew up with a dad who was under-involved, leaving her feeling neglected. And And she said, Dad seemed to work all the time, and I was left feeling alone. So who's she drawn to? She's drawn to Peter because he has that capacity to leave her alone, to disconnect when things get tough. You know, when the going gets tough, the tough get out of Dodge. They go shopping or they get, right? So that's the way it works in a normal relationship. So when Peter perceives Dawn's fear of abandonment, he experiences his, I'm going to be controlled. His lower brain is creating that scene from his childhood and being smothered. And so he pulls away. What happens when he pulls away? When Dawn she experiences that distance, then that triggers her wound of feeling abandoned. Her childhood defense is to pursue, and that results in him feeling more and more controlled. Okay? Anybody see yourself a little bit in this picture? Some of you? Okay. All right. So why? Because one partner's childhood defense activates the other partner's childhood wounds. And that dance goes on and on and on until we have the consciousness to disrupt it and change it. And that's what today's all about. So as a couple, take a moment and how would you describe your core scene? Just I'd like for couples to get together. Yes, table leaders, you and your wife too, or your husband too. Get together and just talk as couples for a moment. How would you describe your core scene in your relationship, just based on what we said? And secondly, are you the maximizer or the minimizer in the relationship? Take a moment. Some other emotion that's happening. So hopefully you've got that, because once you understand your core scene and you understand your fighting style, are you the hailstorm or the turtle? That's going to be very helpful for you. Okay, so now let's talk about zero negativity. Okay, so the becoming conscious of when safety is at risk in the space between you, very important, because it happens before you know it. It happens and then you don't know it, but all of a sudden you look at your wife and you see steam coming out of her ears. You know, something's going on, right? Or body language starts to tell you that it's not safe between you. But so it's the idea of how do we become conscious of it? How do we arrest it and immediately repair the rupture and restore connection? And this is how we steward the space between you. And I want to talk a little bit about the space between you, and we'll do that in the notes as we go. How do we make a relationship safe? Because it starts with the space between, because a relationship is not you. It's not you and your wife or your husband. It's you, your partner, and the space between you. And the issue is not you. The issue is not you. The issue is the space between you. You hear the phrase often, hey, you have anger issues, you need to get help because you'll never have a healthy relationship unless you get help with your anger. That's not the issue. The issue is the space between you is not safe. Make the space between you safe, then you resolve your anger just like that. You resolve the problems that couples come to solve, dissolve once they feel connected. And so the space between you, just like our interplanetary solar system, we know there are forces. Any quantum physicists in the room here? Anyone close to that? Okay, there we go. Okay, so we know that the universe is connected. There's energy forces and fields everywhere. Same but true between you and your partner. It's not empty space. There's either positive energy or there's negative energy. And when you fill the space with safety, curiosity, and wonder, then connection is possible. Full aliveness is the result. But when you have this knee-jerk reaction that's based on that childhood wound, that defensive mechanism, then anxiety is the result and connection is immediately ruptured. So if I I'll put that back for you. Someone's taking a picture of that. There we go. If I put just one little drop, 2 drops, let's say 2 drops of sewage in that pristine glass of water, who's going to drink it? Do we have any volunteers? No, because the toxin poisons the water. And when you know that's done, you're not going to drink it. Just a tiny drop of negativity makes a conversation unsafe. Did you know that? It's not just being a little negative. I was only a little negative. I only gave my partner some constructive criticism. Well, they experienced it as negativity, and connection is ruptured, right? So we must move from an unconscious relationship where we're having all these unconscious reactions. Because listen, if your partner's being mean, they're responding to a painful memory. Plain and simple. It's unconscious, but they're responding to something that's far more significant than what you think. And so if you can have empathy for that, if you can use the dialogue skill to get empathy, then you're on your way to becoming conscious. So that we move from an unconscious relationship to a conscious relationship where we're upper brain regulated rather than lower brain reactive. And we'll talk about how to do that with the dialogue skill. So zero negativity, it's in the space between you. If you make a commitment to zero negativity, then it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Does it mean we can't deal with negative issues? There are negative issues in life. No, we can deal with them, but it's all in how we deal with them. So, a negativity is any behavior that another person experiences as negative. So it could be words, tone of voice, eye roll. What about the husband whose wife, she had to struggle with her cell phone, and she grew up in a home where she already felt like she wasn't the smartest sibling, and then she's struggling with it, and he rolls his eyes. It's like a stab in the heart, You're stupid, right? So facial expressions, body language, and then of course heavy-duty negatives. Some when we're reactive, we can shame, we can blame, we can criticize, we can contempt. We can devaluate. We can walk out of the room when someone's talking to us. But negativity is not up for debate. You can't just say, we'll have a little and we'll manage it. It will not work. If something's perceived as negative, trust that it is. And here's where, in your instructions, because you hear it all the time, that I experienced that as negative. And the partner says, well, I wasn't being negative. You have no idea. It was not a negative thing in my sense at all. But that doesn't matter. The one who feels it gets to call it. Because whatever's happening is triggering something that maybe you're not aware of. And your partner's certainly not aware of it. So you have to trust that if something is perceived as negative, call it. It's negative. And then one drop of negativity and pollutes the entire space between. Right? Okay. All right. Okay, so replace negativity with genuine curiosity and with appreciations and caring behaviors. We're not going to do caring behaviors today. We're doing appreciation. But caring behaviors are things that make your partner feel especially loved and care about. You can do an exercise where you write those down and you exchange lists. And you start doing these caring behaviors for each other. Very important. And then appreciations. One thing I appreciate about you is something about the way you look, something about something you did for me. Maybe you made coffee for me this morning, or some personality trait or character trait I appreciate. You're so good with our kids. I appreciate that. So you can share appreciations. We're going to do that in a moment. But it's a big decision, but I want to tell you it's non-negotiable. So everybody's got to make it today. We're going to make that decision today. But imagine a life with no negativity. You can bring up issues, but in a way that makes your partner feel safe. And so here's the pledge. Let me just, I've got some bullet points on there that made it shorter, but let me just draw your attention to page 2 on your, right after the dialogue sheet. It says the zero negativity pledge. You see that? What it says is nothing can happen in a relationship that is not safe. No relationship can be safe if there's negativity in the form of criticism, blaming, and defensiveness. So number one, we understand that negativity is any transaction that ruptures our connection, whether intentional or accidental. This includes negativity under the guise of a constructive criticism, nonverbal communication, such as a glare, an eye roll, etc. The person who experiences negativity gets to call it. Even if you don't mean to be negative, your partner may experience your conversation as negative. So let your partner call it. And then think of some kind of a word that you'll use, like ouch or bing or some signal that you'll give your partner gently to let them know that you've experienced negativity. All right? And then number 2, we pledge to make our relationship a zone of zero negativity for the next 30 days. Let's try 30 days. And let me encourage you, if you would, get a calendar. You can print one out. And then every day that you are successful in the pledge of zero negativity, put a smiley face so you can chart your progress. Every time there's a ruptured connection and there's negativity, put a frowny face, but go to the back side of the page and correct it and repair it. Then cross the frowny face out and put the smiley face and move on. Okay? So we will make requests when we have a problem and ask for what we want in a way that does not put our partner down. Number 4, we will express our concerns using I statements. We learned that in the dialogue. I talk about what I feel, not what you did. When you came home 30 minutes late, I felt alone. Preparing the meal, alone. I felt alone. Rather than, you're always late. Why can't you come home and criticize it, you see? So use I statements rather than you statements. And then number 5, if we experience a rupture, we will send a gentle signal. So decide something like ouch or wow or oops, and immediately communicate that we've experienced, quote, a put down. And then use the repair process to restore safety and connecting. And number 6, we pledge to give 3 appreciations daily to each other, no matter what. Keep in mind, every time you share an appreciation, you're building new brain pathways. Frank and Katie, one of the things that happened with Frank, why was he on the golf course all the time? Why was he staying late at work? He described when he comes into his house every evening, he feels a wave of depression come over him. Why? Because of the negativity in the relationship, right? And so there was so much negativity, but what happened when they started sharing appreciations for each other, they found that 80% of the relationship was positive. It's that little bit that's negative, that if that's all we experience, that's all we think it is, you see. So you change brain pathways by doing the appreciations. And then number 7, we'll chart our progress on a calendar for the next 30 days, and then we'll repair it and reconnect if we fail. Okay? So you can sign that, but make it personal between you as a couple. And then on the back side is, what if you experience negativity? Well, use your word, ouch, and now it's time to repair. So use one of these 6. You can be curious rather than negative. Ask for a dialogue to learn what was the negative, what was experienced as negative, and then validate that. Empathize with your partner. Number 2, you can ask your partner to say what they said in a way that doesn't feel so negative. You can model it for them. Number 3, take time, ask for a redo. So let's just start over and redo the transaction. And then science tells us, John Gottman tells us, it takes 5 positives to repair every negative. So it's like, all right, 50 push-ups. You were negative, 50 push-ups. You were negative, okay, 5 appreciations. And really, do it. It'll work. So then have a dialogue with your partner about what repairs the ouch. And it could include apologies, laughing, back rub, dancing with each other. Number 6, when you repair and restore, put a reset sticker or cross out the frowny face, put the smiley face, and move on. Listen, this is the biggest takeaway that you can take out of this. If you start now on a journey of zero negativity, you'll find connection will be possible. And it'll be sustainable. Okay? All right. So that one is on the house there. All right. So now the pathway to intimacy or to empathy, and empathy is where we find safety to be able to connect. Is that we mirror, then we validate, and we empathize. And on your appreciation dialogue, there are these sentence stems, we call them, and then we use the listening skill, which is just simply saying, "Let me see if I've got that. You said, did I get it? And is there more about that?" And see what you're doing with those 3? You're showing interest. Couples normally, when they're in a conflict, they hear about 13% of what their partner's saying. Why? Because they're not listening. They're reloading. They're recharging, right? And so this distortion level, 87% of what was said. But when you stop that and say, "Well, let me stop. I'm going to stop my reactive crocodile brain, and I'm going to listen. Let me see if I got you. You said, that when I came home 30 minutes late and didn't call or text, you felt alone and you felt angry. Did I get it? Is there more about that? What have I just done? I've interrupted my own childhood defense. I've gone from the lower brain to the upper brain, and I've made it safe for you to get in touch with what's really going on. Because I know you, and I know you wouldn't be angry and hurting if there wasn't something going on. And I love you, and I care about that, and I want to know what it is. See? Okay, so then validating says, even when you don't see it the same way, you may see it differently. You can say, you make sense. I see your logic. Yeah. It makes sense. You make sense. And what makes sense is, and you explain that, how you see it. And then finally, when you've done that, when you can validate, and that's logic, then you can go to the heart, the feelings, and empathize. So I can imagine how alone you felt. I didn't see it before, but I can see how that made you really feel alone. Yeah. See? And then there's safety for connection. Okay, so we'll do this next. We'll do this next week. Go a little bit further into it. You have it in your notes. You can see more about the mirroring, the validation, the empathy. But I want to get to the actual. Let me just say this. I said it before. Only 20% at most is bad in a relationship, any relationship. It's just that if that's all you look at, it feels like 100%. There's always 80% that's good, but because of pain and self-absorption is a result of pain. When you're in pain, you're self-absorbed. If I'm on the beach and I'm enjoying the beauty, and the sun and the waves, and the sand, and all of a sudden I cut my foot on a sharp shell and it just gashed my foot, well, then the pain drains me of all that appreciation of what's around me because I become self-absorbed in my pain. And many of us are, when this pain is being activated, we become self-absorbed and we can only see our reality. We can't see I can't see your reality. And so that's where couples, they're in that symbiotic relationship where they can only see their reality and they argue, they fight, and they try to bring it together. They never can, because you can't do it unless you're willing to see your partner's perspective and reality, okay? So changes in the brain, then feelings occur when you choose to consistently focus on and express the positive aspects. So why appreciations? Quantum physics tells us what we look at is what we see, ultimately. If I'm only seeing what my partner's doing wrong in my eyes or how they're hurting me, that is all I will see. But if I will start to look at the positive aspects, then everything shifts. The brain pathways change. Then pretty soon I have a default where I start to see the positive rather than negative, right? So what you focus on is what you get. If you're negative, your partner shows up that way. Positive, your partner shows up positive. The more good you focus on, the more good there will be to focus on. The wife who couldn't think of anything, her friend encouraged her. She couldn't think of one thing. She said, I can't think of it. Everything's negative. It's so bad. No, it's negative. No, there's nothing. And finally, she said, well, he's good looking, but I can't stand to look at him right now. I said, well, tell him that. So she told him. And then it shifted. And then she said, I see how you are with our kids, and you bring things to our parenting that I don't have, and I appreciate that. And this is what she came back and told her friend that counseled her. She said, the more I said that I appreciated, the more I saw. So take it to the bank. All right, here we go. So what do I appreciate? How you look? Hey, I like the way you're wearing your hair. I got this thing now where I color my wife's hair. I do. Save me $100 every 6 weeks. So I'm the artist, man. I put on the rubber gloves, man. I'm ready to go. So, but I love the way she's wearing her hair, and I love the color now. My daughter cut it for her, so saved another bundle there, right? So how you look, and then something you did, something appreciate you that you maybe coffee this morning, or some trait. One thing I appreciate is how patient you are with our children. So think of something about your partner want you to do that right now. And then look at your dialogue sheet. It says the appreciation dialogue. Okay, this is what we're going to do. Okay, we're going to, you're going to ask for an appointment. Now keep in mind, in this dialogue sheet, look at the bottom. It says created by Harville Hendricks and Helen LaKelly Hunt. A married couple who created Imago Relationship Therapy. They're my heroes. They're my mentors. They are amazing. But they developed this over 40 years, so don't change it. Don't try to, well, I got it. No, go step by step, word for word. Okay? So when it says ask for the appointment, the best way to keep it safe with your partner is not rush in and start talking. It's like if I was thinking something, it's like I've got a movie going in my mind. I'm thinking, then Sandy rushes in and she rushes into my movie house. She says, take that down and look at what I'm talking about. And I may do that out of consideration for a while, but eventually it's a violation. It's a violation of my boundary. See? So it's better if she says, hey, is this a good time? She used to say, you're not doing anything. When I was actually answering the important email on my phone, and she said, you're not doing anything. No. Now she says, is this a good time? And if I say, it's not a good time right now, give me 5 minutes, or tonight would be better. The important thing is that you give a time and that you show up. Okay? So make an appointment, make eye contact. Sometimes with couples, this is not possible. It's not required. If you don't feel like you can look in your eyes, there's a reason. It's fine. Okay? But if you can, make eye contact. Take a few deep breaths in sync. Take 3 deep breaths. Why? Because when you breathe, your brain relaxes, and it has a way of making it, helping you make it safe. Just center yourself together. All right? So then look on your sheet. The next section is you're going to use these sentence stems. One thing I appreciate about you is, and then you tell them. And then when your partner says that, for each of these bullet points, you go through these 3 mirroring points. You say, let me see if I got you. If I did, you said, when I made you coffee this morning, you appreciated it. Did I get it? So what you're doing, you're showing interest. Did I get it? I want to make sure I got you. I listened, because when I listen to you, that means you're important. When the words out of your mouth are important to me, you feel important. So did I get it? I want to make sure I got it. And then, here's the key. Here's the switch that turns on curiosity. Because even in a fight, even a frustration, I'm not even curious about what you're saying. But when I say, is there more about that? What happens? My brain turns on curiosity. And my wife feels it. And she feels safe to talk. So just know that your brain will go where you intentionally send it. So did I get it? So say it with me. Let me see if I got you. If I did, you said. Did I get it? Is there more about that? Do it again. Let me see if I got you. If I did, you said. Did I get it? Is there more about that? All right, you're ready to go. Okay, you got that part down. So then after you've done it the first time, one thing I appreciate about you, when you use the mirroring skill to make it safe for your partner, then your partner can get to what's behind. Let me share an example with you. A wife was ready to leave her husband. She talked to me about leaving him. That was the plan. He was so angry, and he wouldn't deal with his anger. And so in the process of them dialoguing, she discovered that when he was growing up, his mom abandoned him, and he went to live with his grandmother. His grandmother raised him until one day his mom showed up out of nowhere and demanded that he live with her. And then they moved into the same apartment where the grandmother was. And the young man, the man who said was a boy, as a little boy, he could hear his grandmother cooking, but his mom didn't have food in the house and she wasn't cooking. But he wasn't allowed to go to his grandmother, because then his grandmother would know his mom's not cooking. And that's the way it came out. And so one of the caring behaviors was making me a meal. And he's married to, guess who? A high, driven, highly successful entrepreneur, running an organization, actually running a nonprofit organization. She didn't like to cook, right? But when she made the step to make a meal for him, he softened. And she told me 4 days ago now, everything's changed. He's so nice. He's so kind. And he's trying so hard. Why? Because a childhood wound that he had was beginning to be healed by the one who's commissioned to bring that healing. And if it was just, I got to make you a meal, I got to cook, I can't be who I want to be in the relationship, that's because you're disconnected. But boy, when you see connection, then I'll gladly do that for you. Why? Because this is worth it. Having this relation, this intimacy is worth it. So there's a good example, good story for you. All right. So then summarize and say, what I heard you say is, and summarize it. And then validate, you make sense, and what makes sense is that a good validation? And then finally, imagine you feel, I can imagine that feels really, really comforting to you to have a meal made and to have that childhood wound touched and healed. I can imagine that must feel really good. Yeah. And if you knew the guy, he's a macho dude with a hot rod car and everything, right? But was wounded as a child. Okay, so give me a couple volunteer. Let's have one of you volunteer, and let's walk through this so that everyone can see it, and then we'll have you do it. And we have till we don't have that much time, so we'll do an abbreviated demonstration. How's that? Get you started. Now, not everybody raise your hand at once. Want to do it? Okay, let's do it. Come on up. Yeah. All right. Good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We got Kimber.
Yep.
And Mike. All right.
Hello.
For Mike. All right. So, do you have who has an appreciation? Would like to start. You have an appreciation? Okay. So, what I want you to do is take a moment and say, Kimber, is this a good time to share an appreciation?
Kimber, is this a good time to share an appreciation?
It's a great time to share appreciation, honey.
All right. So take a few deep breaths, look at each other, and now, Mike, say, one thing I appreciate about you, Kimber, is.
One thing I appreciate you, Kimber, is how beautiful you keep our house. The colors, the decorations, the little things you put everywhere. It really makes me feel like I'm in a home that's beautiful and warm and welcoming.
So let me see if I got you.
Let me see if I got you. What I heard is you love when I go shopping and make the house beautiful.
You had to throw that in.
I had to.
Yeah, you had to throw that in, right. Sneak it in. Okay. Mirroring is simply saying what your partner said, nothing more.
Oops.
Not quite. Not quite.
I love when I take the time to decorate our house and to put out extra little decorations and make it pretty. Do I got you right?
Yes, you do.
Is there more about that?
Yes, there is more about that. The shopping part.
When I experience that, I feel.
So when I experience that, I feel like you love us as a husband and wife because I can see the beautiful things that you want to surround us with in the home that we share together.
So what I hear you saying is when I do go shopping and buy us little stuff, that I really am taking care of our marriage because it makes you feel like you're in a home that feels like love. Did I get it? Is there more about that? Did I get it?
You got more than just it, yes.
Is there more about that?
Is there more about that?
What that reminds me of when I was little is
what that reminds me of when I was little is my mom would really take the time to prepare the house with beautiful things for the holidays, right? Christmas, you always knew it was Christmas, Halloween, Thanksgiving. So it brings me back to a happy, safe place in my childhood, having a beautiful home with beautiful things to celebrate our home.
I love that for us. So let me see if I got that. So when I make the house beautiful and decorate for holidays or Valentine's, Thanksgiving or Christmas, brings you back to a really happy time in your childhood when you felt loved.
You got it.
Is there more about that?
No, you got it.
Can you summarize? A summary is not a memory contest to remember everything. It's just a summary of what I heard.
So the summary is what I heard is you don't mind when I go shopping to make the house beautiful. And it actually makes you feel very loved and like I'm taking care of our home and family. Is that a good summary?
Pretty good summary. Pretty good summary.
I still had to sneak that in there.
Okay, so in the validation, you're looking at him and you're saying, okay, you make sense. And what makes sense is you tell him.
What makes sense is that I can see how when you're young and those memories, those good memories of Christmas or different times, the decorations made you just feel special. And I enjoy doing that. And you see that. I think that it brings happiness to both of us when you look around. And we love beauty, and you enjoy that. I enjoy making things beautiful for our home. And I appreciate that you appreciate that.
Is that a good validation?
Is that a good validation?
Quite honestly, I would say it's deeper than that, in that we have a home that we share together. It's ours. And the beauty of that home is because of who you are. So when you bring those things into our life, you're sharing who you are in a space that we have together.
I love that. Thank you.
Okay. So I can imagine that you feel, and just continue what that makes you feel.
I can imagine that makes you feel happy when things are decorated pretty, because it also brings me so much joy. So it's nice to know that it brings you joy that when you see these pretty things and decorations and whatnot and keeping the house pretty, that it makes it a peaceful place for you to live. Are those the feelings?
Those are the feelings. Yeah, your beauty is now something I can see when you're not there. Maybe you're working or you're somewhere else, but there you are in my home, even when you're not there, because part of you is decorated.
I guess it's gonna make me cry. That's pretty good.
All right. So give her a hug. Give each other a hug. Very good. Wow.
That was nice.
You got a keeper. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Okay, so go ahead with your partner and do just exactly what you saw there. Start with the asking for the appointment and go for it. I see you guys did it. You did it together? Oh, you did it. Okay. Did you want to share? Very positive.
No, it was a very positive experience. It's hard not to giggle with your partner. I don't know if you found that also. But we did get serious, and it felt very heartwarming and sincere and genuine.
Wow, good. And giggling is good. Fun is really important for a relationship. My wife and I were missionaries early on, and we grew up in a kind of a home where hey, you have fun when you get to heaven. You serve the Lord now and suffer, right? That was the worst advice ever, because fun is the expression of being fully alive. And so you have fun in your relationship. Very important. Someone else who would like to share just a feedback? Yes. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Eric, and this is my wife, Dee Dee. What I liked about it, and this is corny, but I love the structure. it kind of forced the conversation down. Like I give and then she acknowledges, and did I get that right, and vice versa. And that's a great tool. That way it kind of adds structure. That way you don't meander, because I misinterpreted what you said. And she said, no, you didn't get that right. And I said, oh, okay, so let's try that again. So that was cool.
That's good. So the structure, and a lot of people find that hard. I used to think it was just smart people that found it hard, but I found a lot of people find it hard. Yeah, it's hard. Someone else. Okay. All right, Cody.
So we've been amazed. We've been able to reconcile some really challenging topics without them spinning out of control in a huge fight growing out of it. Just so powerful.
So proud of you guys. I knew them when they weren't married. Yeah, so proud of you guys. That's so good. You guys are amazing. Yeah. So the idea is when things can get out of control, they can go spinning out of control, and we know how that can happen. Stop, listen to each other, and this is not about conflict resolution. It's about connection, because you can resolve conflict without connecting. But I think what Cody's describing is that when we feel connected, things don't get spun out of control, right? Yeah. I did put those words in your mouth, so you can. Yes. Did I get that? Yes. Here we go, leaping over the couch. All right.
Okay, I'm going to share this with everybody. I'm a very sentimental person. I carry my feelings in this sleeve. And I want an honest opinion from everybody over here. And I would really want it to be honest as much as you can. This is amazing. This is incredibly amazing, this class in which teaches people how to communicate. But how many of us do we struggle after we come and we have a session like this? And then we go home, we feel good and everything, then we sit down and we start talking and we try to follow these rules. How many of us struggle with this? Thank you. Because I really wanted to say, holy cow, you know. This past week was our 33-year anniversary. And it is a struggle. I'm not perfect. And I struggle through it. And when I try to do this, it only works for like the first 3 minutes. And then there's something, it's just like, shh. And I wanted to say thank you.
Thank you for your honesty, because I can testify. I know these principles. I see them work every week, but I sometimes have trouble doing it because I'm into that reactive brain before I know it. And then it's embarrassing because, you know, we have a saying in imagotherapy, you have to be it to lead it. You can't do this without having experienced it. So I struggle too. But let me tell you, you can start with 3 appreciations a day. Take the appreciation dialogue and practice it 15 minutes each night. Just do that. Just before you go to bed, practice. And I'm going to share a testimony next week. I don't have time now, about someone who discovered that it comes through practice, not by just being exposed to it. Because that's the way the kingdom of God is. When God gives you a breakthrough, you have to steward it, and it positions you for further growth in the promised land, further expansion in the promised land, right? But if you don't steward it, then you're back to square one. If you just try to maintain it, you lose it. It's got to position you to go further. And that means asking for that appointment and sharing that appreciation. Okay, Graham, you 5 minutes left, and it's all yours.